Fam, I just first of all want to say thank you to Jackie Pagao because she was defending me from all these neo-progressives on Facebook. By the way, that term caught on really well. I love hearing people using it. I'm on to the next term too, which is the rad libs, right? The radical liberals. They think they're radicals, but they're liberals. And of course, this is a subject that a lot of people have been waiting for us to talk about, even though it's not the only subject. And we can talk about this too, Pasta, because we hadn't had a chance to actually talk about what's developed since. But the fight for healthcare for all, for Medicare for all, for single payer, whatever it ends up being, right, continues. But it's also unraveling and exposing a lot of these frauds. Now, Ben Dixon is one of these people that, we know, Niko knows, has been a fraud for a long time. If you haven't seen his video, you could watch it. But he actually went really, really nasty. And this is really getting like intense right now with the divide here, right? And he implied that Brianna Joy Gray was being weaponized to push the issues for white people, right? In other words, implying that she was an Uncle Tom. So I have Niko's status up here because he retweeted this video. And it's just really nasty. Basically, like I said, he said that, and this was at the show. I think it was the Breakfast Club, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that what show it was?
Or
I just knew he had a cool Puma shirt on too.
No, he's right here. Yeah. So this is posted by Jack, not Jack Zumalt, and he said this is pretty shitty of Dixon to say. To be honest, Bri Joy continuously serves the role of a black person who will be the spokesperson for white progressives that has done away with their white supremacy. Let's just hear what he said real quick.
I try my best not to attack black folks and give them space, but Brianna Joy Gray has jumped into this conversation as well. And she is coming on the side of, like she traditionally does. Like, I have a complicated relationship with her in the sense of I consider her a colleague, but I also consider her wrong on a whole lot of issues. And this is the issue that she's wrong on. And she continuously is wrong on this issue. And she continuously serves the role as a black person who would be the spokesperson for white progressiveness that has not done away with their white supremacy. That role was mine, and I obviously turned it down. I try my best not to attack black folks.
So, yeah, so that is, in other words, saying that, right? Because what is the definition of an Uncle Tom? It's somebody that actually is subservient, right? A black person that is subservient to white people, right? And of course, Twitter went all over it. To me, it's really nasty because there was no reason to go there. And I've already talked about, and I have more videos coming on what he said and all the things he was saying. He had a meltdown, but I don't want to waste time with people like Dixon because they're they're just toxic and they're just upset because they don't like Jimmy Dore or whatever. But then he tried to tie this to reparations. So basically he was tying the issue of Medicare for all and trying to get it to be an opposition to reparations. And Brianna Joy Gray went on and said, I lived 10 years without health care, quoting him because he said this. He said, I lived 10 years without health care. I can go as long as we got to go. Ben Dixon on why we should hold up Medicare for all until we get reparations. And she said, I support reparations. Pitting these issues against each other is extremely regressive and it's cruel in the middle of a pandemic. And then she goes on,
stupid.
It's very stupid. And then she goes on to say, this either or strategy is exactly what liberals have used to shoot down universal programs that inure disproportionately to the benefit of poor black/brown people. I wrote an article about it, and this is from the same stream. She mentioned that's what he said, etc. We don't have to watch that, but I just wanted to point that out because it's really gross to see. And you're right, Pasta. It's really stupid. Right? Why would Medicare why would having Medicare for all not help black people? Right?
Yeah,
it doesn't.
And why would you
make any
use?
sense.
I mean, I know why you would do it too, as well. It's just a stupid game he's playing to pit these two issues against each other. You know what I'm saying? If you both feel they're important, they're important. You know what I'm saying? And listen, I think personally, and I was just telling Niko before that I think that we should have forced these people to put Ilhan Omar's standalone 5-page bill on rent and mortgage forgiveness up and say they would hold the vote, because in this particular situation, I believe they would have more right-wing support. You know what I'm saying? But when Jimmy put this right here up too, he was talking about healthcare in a pandemic. He was putting the thing that was either put up or shut up, because it is the thing that all these people, including AOC, were fighting for and stood behind, and why we were supposedly putting them in the office. It was their number one issue, is healthcare. Now you have a pandemic, and you're going to sit there and say, hey, we can't do it because we don't have the numbers, a la bullshit. And then to have people like Dixon come in after Brianna Joy Gray like this, I mean, it's disgusting too. It really is disgusting to try to say that this issue is more important than that issue. Both these issues are very important, but we're right in the middle of a pandemic right now, and it helps everybody across the board, especially poor people. And
he's doing it disingenuously too, because it's not like she doesn't believe in that. As she said, he's just doing it to dismiss it. And it's really telling to me how a person, a woman like her, is treated, right? Like when you stand up against the establishment, even the progressive establishment, how you're automatically just pushed aside as, oh, you just don't care about your own people. It's like, well, that's not what it is. And they're using this identity politics, and I'm going to talk about it more. But Ben Dixon also decided to talk about how Jimmy Dore is a Fed. He said, I so literally stupid. Have 10 more levels of turn up left for Jimmy, and any of you rocking with the attack on the left, Corey, Jamal, AOC, and the squad. In fact, I honestly feel like I've been rather kind on the issue. I will scorch this MF till I have 2 followers left and then smile contently. For instance, Jimmy is a Fed sent to neutralize the squad, and that's what mediocre motherfuckers like him jump at the chance for. I literally will burn every inch of everything down on this one cause. I'll be goddamn if I stop telling the truth because my comrades don't agree. First of all, don't use the word comrade, you liberal. Second of all, Jimmy being a Fed is the funniest shit I have ever heard. Like, if anybody is not a Fed, it's Jimmy Dore. The guy is way too, like, in the same vein, they literally say Jimmy Dore is this reactionary, just radical, that he just gets all these people like to go crazy, and he's angry and he makes no sense. In the same breath, they go and say, oh, he's a Fed, or he's CIA, or it doesn't make sense, right? Pick a lane. Like, either he's a Fed or he's this crazy lunatic comedian that you think should have no place.
You know, fam, it's so funny too as well, because the neo-progressives are taking on the habits of the neoliberals. When your argument fails because facts get in the way, smear people for who they are, say they're paid actors, right? I was called Greg today, and I'm a paid actor today, and I mean, and you whatnot. And I mean, it's so stupid, and they try to use code, my comrades. Like, shut the hell up. You know what I'm saying? It's so dumb. It's so weak. And it's, once again, the neo-progressive have taken on the same behavior as the establishment. They're like good trained minions and soldiers, the way we smear people and attack them personally if we disagree with their point of view on a political subject or on another stance. You know what I mean? This is dumb. And, we said months ago, some people was like, oh no, Jimmy's exposing the neo-progressives for who they are and whatnot. Like, we already knew who these people were. Not a lot of these people surprised us. Only thing that's happened is that some of the people that we knew where they stood, they've gotten nastier and dirtier. Why? Because they know they're wrong. Yeah. They know they're being sycophants to AOC and the squad, their little Yas queens, instead of standing behind what they said they were standing behind. Single payer, Medicare for all, where you at? You've been exposed. We already knew who you were.
You've been exposed.
No shite.
And I had to put this up, right? Because he mentioned Jimmy being a cop. Well, Best F Ort found these old tweets from Ben Dixon from 3 years ago, right? Where he was just talking so much crap about Assange. He said, I see Ben Dixon likes to smear people instead of listening to their arguments. Did you know he also led a smear campaign against Julian Assange 3 years ago? And you can see Ben Dixon talking about, hate to tell you guys, but Assange was only working for Assange. WikiLeaks and Assange were once held in venerated position by too many, seen as heroes above reproach and questioning. Glad we can generally dispense with that notion and demand their motives be questioned like everyone else. Then he said, WikiLeaks played themselves with these messages to Trump Jr. basically begging Trump to do favors for Assange. Wow. And then the last one is, unless Trump is secretly Manafort in disguise and had private phone calls with foreign agents, Assange is intentionally lying to you. So, so somebody that is calling Dore a cop, right, is pro-security state, anti-Assange, bought the whole Russiagate thing, smeared Assange connections with Putin. And, you know, then he took his little grift and started using progressive terms, right? And so people bought into it. I saw a lot of people like, hey, like, look, Ben Dixon, he's doing this and he's saying that. Maybe he's changed, blah, blah, blah. Well, there you go. The guy is who he always was. And these are the people that are smearing the real truth tellers. And that's the only reason I bring them up, because they are smearing the truth tellers. And a lot of these things that people like Dixon say when they get on their large platform gets regurgitated around. I see the same bullshit lies being used against this effort for Medicare for All by regurgitating what Sirota said, regurgitating what Dixon said. And it's really bad, fam.
You know, something that's really crazy too is the smear tactics they're using, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? They do the same thing. They, you know, smear him for his money that he's making right now. Like Jimmy, for the first time in his life, is making a few dollars. A guy who didn't have the money to pay for his healthcare bills and was in such pain that he wanted to die. Like he wanted to end it all. And now, you know, he stuck to his guns. He was the biggest anti-imperialist voice out there. His funding doesn't come from MSNBC or the mainstream media or anybody in the intelligence. It's from you and I and people like us that watch him and listen to him. It's 100% people-powered, regular people who want Medicare for all, who want to end the imperial wars, and they see a guy and they treasure a guy who says what's on his mind, and he doesn't care what the mainstream media or any other narratives that are put out. And these neo-progressives, man, the way they attack him about his alcoholism, they're saying now, oh, Jimmy's an alcoholic. That is the stupidest thing I ever friggin' heard. And, you know, there's somebody out there right now that's a Facebook or whatnot, and he went there too as well, just like Ben Dixon did. It's like, you don't know shit about Jimmy. Jimmy's not an alcoholic. Anybody who drinks alcohol is now an alcoholic. I mean, this is ridiculous. And that's all you can do is smear him at his personality and his character, because you have no argument for what he's arguing for, because he's 100% right. He's taking what you said, AOC, what you said, Squad, and putting you to task. Yeah. If you don't want to do it, then step off. You're exposed, and that's it. But you attacking his character is only going to make him get more followers and more people believing him. You know what I'm saying? We don't follow him because we're his friends. We believe in what he says and what he stands for. Not on everything, but definitely on Medicare for All and Imperial Wars.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And yes, Jimmy is a friend, but at the same time, even if you don't like Jimmy Dore, you can separate your dislike for him for the ideas that he's pushing. And that's one point I've been trying to make. You don't have to like Jimmy Dore to admit, hey, nobody's done any of this. This is a good idea. But instead, what people are doing is exactly as you said, resorting to assumptions about things that aren't true that you hear in media, resorting to personal attacks on what he drinks, or even weed smoking as if it's a negative thing. Hello, marijuana is legal in California. It's legal in a lot of states. It's actually like not a bad thing. I don't know why it's still being used as being, like a bad thing. Like maybe some of you all could use some marijuana for a little bit of enlightenment. Maybe try some mushrooms too. It might do you some well. But another person that's exposed themselves, and I have to mention this one because it was really disgusting what she was pushing, a combination of Russiagate, which is why Putin is on the thumbnail here as well, because she started saying that there were trolls that were created just to push Jimmy Dore's agenda, right? And this is Nomikikon. Now, Nomikikon has been hailed by a lot of the neo-progressive left. You and I both know and have known for a long time that she's not who she says she is, but so many people still didn't see the light. She's also part of Sam Cedar's show and his network. And she said lots of people with one follower who joined Twitter like a minute ago, so passionate about a Twitter ordeal. We all see what's happening, right? And then she went on to put another tweet. Many on the left have experienced the troll armies that get unleashed with a click by neoliberals. Yes, that is true. Some are real, some are fake, but all there to harass and distract. I challenge Jimmy's strategy, and similar troll armies to the neolibs have been unleashed. hundreds an hour. What even more curious is Jimmy has barely the following of or support of AOC has, and yet her supporters haven't flooded the internet with talking points harassing certain accounts. Why is Jimmy and his gang trying to split and harass the left? This only helps the neoliberals. So I'll get your opinion on that, Pasta, but first of all, I just want to say Jimmy Dore isn't dividing the left. We have been divided for a long time. Since the moment the left decided to be authoritarian, parts of the left decided to be anti-Assange or dismiss Assange, decided to not care about our civil liberties, decided to dismiss election fraud, decided to completely not care about foreign policy. That's the moment we were divided, okay? That Jimmy Dore isn't dividing anybody. He's exposing these people. In fact, he's letting them expose themselves by their commitment to politicians and this just pontification and this just desire to put them on a pedestal rather than hold them accountable. That's what he's exposing, and instead of focusing on the Medicare for All issue that progressives and the Bernie contingent have so fervently lauded. Ooh, it's my number one issue. It's my number one issue. When the moment fucking comes during a pandemic, the only time you're going to have a pandemic to push Medicare for all, they decide that no, it's not good enough. It's intellectually not there compared to what they would like. And because it's Jimmy Dore. That's why.
Yeah.
If somebody else, like a squad member, was saying it, they'd be lauding them and applauding them. But it's because it's a jagoff comedian from his garage that they are so angry because they don't deem him intelligent enough to be doing this. And that's where I see all these attacks coming from. It's not even about the issue anymore. It's about him. And that's not what it's supposed to be about.
Well, I think the problem is too, is that the fact is that the issue is just really, it's the ultimate exposure, right? Because it's the number one issue we talk about when it comes to progressives. Nomiki has been a huge Bernie Sanders fan for a long, long time. Right. But the fact that you put this issue over actually the politicians, we're supposed to be, that's the thing about progressives, right? We're supposed to be issues driven. But now you put this issue and say, hey, this issue is bigger than the people that you love, bigger than the people you were counting on to be the next president. They invested so much emotional stock into people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad that they can't see the trees, beyond the forest because they're still just caught up in this sycophantal kind of like put them on a pedestal, like what you say, pontification, of sorts, like, that's the problem right now. And these people right here are the people that will be willing to stick with this Democratic Party. That's what they've really exposed themselves to me, that, if AOC stays in the party and Bernie stays in the party, which he was never really in the party, but I mean, if they stay in this group, this party, they'll stay with them, despite the fact that the Democrats have not done anything for poor people and working people and will continue to press, policies that will hurt them. It doesn't make a difference to these people like Nomikikon and all these other little minions. They're so just loving of these people. It's a form of sensationalism, and it really has a lot to do, I think, with the inner person too as well. Because now you expose yourself internally. You need to look in the mirror because you're a fraud. If you're going to say that these people are more important than the Medicare for all that you were so thrusted in the street to go fight for, it's not even confusing. It's something that we saw coming. They're just revealing themselves. The chickens have come home to roost.
And it's really, it's just there's this sort of intellectual superiority complex with some of these people because they consider themselves intellectuals and smart, and they have used this to minimize anything that doesn't agree with their level of theory or intellectualization of an issue. Meaning, like, for instance, if you don't read this, then you don't understand how to do this. And it's this anti sort of working class mentality that's very elitist, that's very similar to what neoliberals are, like how neoliberals like push people away into the Republican Party. That's what these people are doing. They're like very elitist. And this is what she said. This guy Doomberg, aka Dr. Discourtesy, posted, wow, Nomikikon really hates Jimmy Dore. She goes full Babin and accuses Jimmy of taking Assad money. most of her criticism is like really elitist. She seems to think that he is somehow sucking away people who should be being led by people with backgrounds. So let's just watch a little bit of the video. I know you guys aren't fans of Cedar, but this is for the sake of the show.
I love Sam Cedar.
But I think, you know, what's becoming clear, and what is clear with Jimmy Dore in particular, is that this is not about pressuring politicians to do something. This is not about a long-term strategy to empower the most progressive forces in the Democratic Party to get real change. This is about him trying to prove, and it's an easy thing to do, at least in terms of what his requirements for proof are, him trying to prove that they're all frauds and that really the only true person out there is him.
He's the guy who took Assad money.
Well,
Also, like, sorry, he accepted money. So there's the Jimmy Dore issue, which is fueled by anything from having an agenda, clickbait, and really like making left commentary, frankly, cheap because it's not nuanced and it's not sophisticated and it's not like he has a background in political theory or organizing or frankly any politics. We don't have actual movement leaders out there, like real movement directing the left. And so what happens is he's sucking up that void, like he's taking over that void and preying on people's vulnerabilities right now. People are angry and they're concerned and they don't know where to channel their energy, partly because institutions have been dismantled on the left who want to be multimillionaires and famous. And, you know, let's just make those lines very clear. Yeah. So and not to mention, he has taken money admitted to taking money from pro-Assadist groups. So he's not the pure guy that he wants to pretend. And I like Jimmy.
He has a problem with those pro-Assad groups, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think
neither did Tulsi.
But that's the problem. He can't sit here taking money from anybody that's not your audience means you're technically not pure, right?
Yes. Politicians are not.
Okay, so Pasta, I know you're gonna have a lot to say. I just want to say, he's cheap because he's telling the truth, basically holding people accountable. Yeah, there she goes again with there's no background in theory. So Jimmy Dore has to have a background in the theory of organizing in order to have an opinion on it. You know what is very obvious is that these people are bothered by the fact that he is more intelligent emotionally in certain ways than these people with all of their supposed, elitist background. I mean, Nomiki, she's not poor. She never was. So, like, it's just really funny to me that this is coming like, oh, it's cheap. Why? Why is it cheap? Like, he's literally just saying what it is. And then she brings in the Assad crap, right? This Assad crap is like, I expect it from neoliberals, but when progressives are still peddling this, ooh, like you're an Assadist, oh, Tulsi's an Assad, and they bring up her name, they bring up Assad, they bring up all this crap in order to smear somebody. It is the same thing as being called an Assad toady. Oh, look at Jimmy Dore, he took money from a pro-Assad group. Like, what are you talking about? That was debunked like so long ago. And I don't know, Pasta. Like we can't go back from this when these people are saying things like that and they're rushgating and they're spewing all these smears on people for simply telling the truth and saying like he doesn't have anything substantial to say, even though so many people agree and so many people are on board, including Dr. Cornel West in his own way is saying, yes, force the vote. It's just really... It's really nasty, elitist, and it's very pro-imperialist, and I'll get into that too.
Well, yeah, they always expose themselves in their lack of foreign policy, but you look at these three people: Sam Cedar, Nomikikon, and Emma. And I expect to see these three people at an exorcism, not a TV show, whatnot. Right now, the only thing that's missing from these three here is the friggin' Ouija board. Right now, I mean, it's just so stupid, so scary. And what about Sam Cedar? What's his position right now? He's the one who really, he was saying that Jimmy's not a solutionist, that all he just wants to hear, he wants to hear himself speak and just yell. And now here comes Nomiki saying that, they're filling a void and that's why they did it, that he saw in a lane and an opportunity to make money, whatnot. No, this is the exact thing that you've been talking about, getting together and organizing and forcing the Democratic Party to force a vote on the floor for Medicare for all. And now you have this, you can see they're just all these three people here should be the three most jealous people in the world. They should be labeled as the three most jealous people in the world of Jimmy Dore. They're making it about Jimmy. They're not making it about the cause. And nobody, let's be honest, you know what I'm saying? Like I've said, I think that I would have loved to seen Ilhan Omar's bill as far as rent relief and mortgage bill. I would have liked to see them force that, a floor vote on that, because I think it would have exposed a lot of Republicans too as well if they voted against it, because they believe in that, at least in principle. I think there's still going to be a hard time to get Republicans to move them to Medicare for all. However, whatever the case may be, you still have organized this whole movement right now to say, listen, get people on the record right now. If they don't put Medicare for all on the Medicare for all on the floor for a vote, then we don't get that. We don't give you our vote. It's a genius tactic, and it's something we've all talked about for how long? How many times have we said that Nancy Pelosi's the one? She's the keeper at the gate. She's not the one letting progressive policies go through. A lot more people are going to see that right now. They're going to understand that, and these people are freaking out because someone finally called their bluff. They made videos about it, like Matt Orfalia, whatnot, and they're pumping it out. And now all the eyes are on them going, so what are you going to do? So what are you going to do? So everything you hear now is just backlash to try to get it off there. Oh, well, it's not the issue. It's Jimmy. He's an alcoholic and he's an Assad toady. And what are you doing? Why are we listening to him? Why are we listening to this guy? It's the same tactics over and over. If you can't argue against the message, then attack the messenger. And that's what they're doing because they're scared shitless.
Exactly. And they're just mad that they didn't come up with the idea and that they're not getting the credit.
They would never do that. They would never do that to their Yas Queen. They would never expose, AOC.
Right.
But Jimmy made AOC. We all found out about her from Jimmy, and she had a great show. She's like, this is our type of person. Then she also had a good editor for a video, which is another great thing because those things catch fire. And we were all backing her, supporting her. We have our AOC T-shirts. We went to her campaign headquarters way before she got elected, fam. So, and it was that grassroots movement from Jimmy Dore giving his platform, people in his platform who are young candidates pushing for all this. When she came to town, we threw the big event for her. You know what I'm saying? We were all there with her. But everybody who knows anything about policies that she's turned our back and gone a different way. Yeah. The lawyers started coming in. Everything started changing. Even Lauren Steiner going in there victory night, exposing people from her staff going, this woman is turning a blind eye on us. And now all these new people are coming in here. Well, it just played itself out. We knew this since day one. We were like, uh-oh, here it goes.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that he made her because people, I would say he gave her a platform when she was not entirely at all popular, and she returned the favor by literally never coming back or even talking to independent media. She's always on mainstream media and they love her. So you also have to question that. How anti-establishment and leftist is AOC if the mainstream media and the centrists love her? You also have to question that if she was a threat to the status quo, they wouldn't be loving her, right? And Richie Dick Medhurst gave a really good response to Nomiki's tantrums. He said, Nomikikon thinks Jimmy Dore's voice is cheap because he lacks a background in politics. Since you want to play the elitist card, you might value my insight then. My family is UN. I grew up in the diplomatic community, was educated with kids of politicians and ambassadors. Jimmy is spot on, and you're frankly full of shit. You're derailing the convo from Medicare for all, covering for politicians, and insinuating people without a background in politics shouldn't participate in discourse that affects them directly, which is very smug, classist thing to say. Yuck. And then he just retweeted one of the things he said, but it's just, it's the epitome of classism. And this is what the point that I want to drive here. These people have zero intention of actually opposing the status quo. They actually want to be a rebranded part of neoliberalism. They want progressivism as a new brand that is the status quo still, where they get to be gatekeepers and get to be on top. They have zero intention of actually overthrowing the system, so to speak, or taking down the status quo, because they benefit from the status quo. They do.
Yeah.
And so that's why
the bosses
so
too. I think when you also, fam, they're also getting paid to do a job, whatnot,
right.
too. So they have to keep their overlords really happy. I remember a year ago, I was like, hey, what if we got a contract with Telesur maybe, or RT, whatnot? And Niko even said, hey, well, listen, maybe we shouldn't even worry about having anybody else as our bosses, because if we have anybody as our boss, they might have an influence on what we do because they write our checks. If we can find a way to make our own money, it's a different thing. But Nomiki, Sam, Emma, they've never had to go out there and make their own bones. They've always had somebody else there. At the end of the rainbow is a Katzenberg check or somebody from MSNBC or CNN who's also writing their shit. So let's not also forget they have sold a little bit of themselves out because they'll make their overlords happy by going after somebody like Jimmy Dore, who's exposing their game.
And fam, just going off of that too, Dan Cohen said, since NATO fan Nomikikon believes it's appropriate to attack Jimmy Dore for taking Assad money, read 2,500 from U.S. anti-war group, she should tell us how much the U.S. government's regime change arm, NDI, paid her to train the opposition in Libya. It's only fair. So again, to reiterate, the Assad money was from an anti-war group that was anti-U.S. invasion in Syria, which we've bombed to no end, right? And this is Nomiki. Wow, it's been 2 years since NDI training with Libyan women activists, some of the founding members of the Libyan government. And you can see all her tweets with them. The longer Libya had civil war, the longer Libya was unstable. NATO needed to intervene. When I was in Libya working with organizers, they were also grateful that NATO intervened, helping the revolution from Gaddafi. I mean, I'll never forget I ended my political trainings in Libya with dynamic female candidates who touched me forever. I mean,
stupid.
She sounds like stupid. Hillary Clinton Jr. right here.
She does. I mean, that's just disgusting, saying NATO had to intervene.
Right.
A civil war versus Gaddafi. No, Gaddafi had complete control of his country until NATO intervened. And now what? Yep. There's an actual slave trade going on. So how wrong was her? Let's listen to Nomikikon. Once again, when somebody's buttering their bread, they'll say whatever they have to do to make their boss happy. They're not truth tellers. They're not progressives, real progressives. They're not your friends. Nomikikon is who we thought Nomikikon was. Just because she made one great speech about where the money's going to and saying it's going to two particular clients in particular, when they talked about the money from the DNC and where it goes and said that, doesn't mean she's going to be great on everything. And she's always sucked when it comes to foreign policy. And right now, this whole attack about Jimmy with the Assad money, she's got some friggin' nerve with her Libyan ties. I mean, the fact that she said that NATO should have intervened, Hillary Clinton Jr., wow.
Exactly. And just to drive that point, the Assad money trope that she was pushing originated with a fake expose by the CIA cutout NED funded disinformation operation Bellingcat, which we've heard many times on this show. There is no tie to Assad. It's just a group that opposes U.S. war on Syria and Israel's occupation on Palestine. What a terrible group to get money from, a donated money from. I mean, it's terrible. I can't believe Jimmy did that. How dare he? Like, they
make it sound like it's money coming directly from the Assad regime. They really try to make you think that, like, he got money from a person who gasses his own people. OMG.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Pasta. When people like her say it, I literally saw like 10 more people repeat the same thing. Well, Jimmy takes Assad money. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's the same trope they did with Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, Tulsi's an Assad apologist. Do you even know what you're saying? Like, do you even know what that means? Like, do you even know what you're pushing here? Like, it's that level of like dysmorphia when it comes to politics. And our boy Robbie Yeager posted something that was really telling, because you remember Josh Fox, our boy Josh Fox, right?
Oh gosh.
So Robbie posted "How to Get Roasted by Jimmy Dore," a play with 3 acts, and then you see Josh Fox there. This is no longer holding people accountable. This is a form of lateral violence within our movement. And it was from a tweet where Jimmy goes in rails against AOC justifiably, right? Saying, this is not, they said, highlights from Jimmy Dore's latest unhinged, creepy rant. against AOC. This is not pressuring a politician. This is personal destruction, masquerading as politics. She has it coming. He was quoting him. She has it coming. Everyone knows you got your start on my show. Everyone knows what you are now. So Jimmy did a video against, what AOC said. And then Francesca Fiorentini, the other pro-Assad NATO-backed hack who works for MSNBC, started saying, "Oh, he needs to get her name out of his damn mouth." And then Jimmy Dore posted,
"This is great. Put this in your mouth.
Put this in your mouth." And it was this thing that said, "Josh Fox loses radio program after being exposed for abusive behavior and profiting off indigenous activists." So it takes 2 seconds to really, if you're going to take cheap shots, don't be angry when people retort and defend themselves. And that's the thing. And the whole thing with Francesca Fiorentini, Pasta, I'm going to ask you this a little bit. Remember that interaction with the text? She was literally pushing imperialism, and he was actually in the right. And, a lot of the neo-progressives are saying, well, he was being sexist and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, even if that were the case, that doesn't mean that she wasn't in the wrong, and she didn't use that to weaponize it against him. And let's not even say the fact that it has nothing to do with this whole situation. None of this has anything to do, and people are wasting their time discussing this. And now Jimmy Dore is sexist for talking about AOC shortcomings as a congresswoman and wanting to hold her accountable. Where the hell are we? I feel like I'm arguing with neoliberals right now. I feel this is just straight up neoliberals.
It is. It's the neo-progressives. They're just a branch of them, whatnot. And once again, they're driven by their emotions, right? So it's not what was said, it was how it was said. And I can't stand that, because what was said was, once again, Francesca Fiorella, or whatever her name is.
Fiorentini, don't do me like that.
Listen, she was kicked off Team Italian a couple of years ago. I forgot to tell you. But anyways, I mean, what she was saying was, once again, pro, CIA talking points, whatnot. And Jimmy lost his nerve on that one. He got a little crazy, whatnot, but he was right. Maybe his tone was wrong and how he was calling her a dummy and whatnot. And he apologized for that. But at the end of the day, we're talking about her standing behind people dying, little children dying in Syria. And for her to go ahead and kind of regurgitate that CIA narrative, just because she did it in a nice, polite way, doesn't excuse for what she said. Right. And she completely exposed herself, because months later, what did she get a contract? MSNBC. Okay. CIA. I think she's on after John Brennan and us. Or the Clapper Hour, who knows? But that's the network she works for, and it's pro-CIA, pro-imperialistic points. So I don't give a damn. I will forgive Jimmy, not because he's my friend or anything like that, because he was right. The rhetoric could have been a little bit off, and I'm sorry, you neo-progressives, that hurt your feelings, but this is war versus anti-war, and you can't change that no matter how hard you try, or no matter how hard you smear the man. He was being anti-imperialist, and she was being pro-imperialist, and that's what's going on right now. These neo-progressives, whether they realize it or not, and they probably don't, because they don't know shit about foreign policy, they're being pro-imperialist.
Yeah, and they're still on this Assad thing and Syrian chemical attacks, and that's what he was arguing. He was like, no, this wasn't real. And she was pushing that it was. She was peddling a conspiracy theory made by the CIA. And
it was a conspiracy theory. Yeah. Because how many times did they debunk these gas attacks, fam? Yeah. How many stories have we done since the first one?
I mean, so many. And, having Vanessa Beeley on not that long ago was really the way she's being attacked by UK mainstream media or state propaganda like the BBC. It's really telling how far these people are going to go to make sure that they paint you as the conspiracy theorist instead of them, who are the propagandists. But what I want to get to finish up here is, so what now, right? Because these people are saying, well, Jimmy Dore, he only has step 1. They don't talk about step 2, literally echoing what AOC said, right? There's no plan beyond this. What are we going to do? So a few organizers, right, have decided to do this on their own. Some of them have decided in their individual states that they're going to push for Medicare for all. In California, that's almost impossible, considering the fact that we have some of the most corrupt people in power who literally shelve SB 562, which is a single-payer health. But there has to be a push too when it involves direct actions, right? Maybe calling people isn't enough. Maybe a petition isn't enough. This is how we start. This is what set the domino effect for people to be like, hell yeah, you're right. We should be demanding Medicare for all during a fucking pandemic. When else are we going to get a chance to do that? So Jackson Hinkle, who I was on his show earlier today, said, I agree with Jimmy Dore. Progressives need to withhold their support for Pelosi as speaker until she gives us Medicare for all vote, who will join me in a sit-in outside of the D.C. office of AOC on January 3rd and 4th to demand they negotiate Medicare for all vote. Sign up here. And so you can sign up on the Google Docs and join them for a sit-in. And I think this is a good effort to really see how AOC reacts, because if AOC goes and ignores them, that's going to look bad on her. If she goes and talks to them and then says no, it's still going to look bad on her. It's just not as bad. But if she flat out maybe she is pressured enough to do something, I don't know. But these people are going to try it because so many people are saying, well, there's no organizing going on. Jimmy Dore doesn't know how to organize. It's like, that's not his job. He's a commentator and he's a comedian. He's simply laying this out.
He gave you a plan.
Exactly.
He gave you a full plan.
So
put up or shut up. And that's all these people said they were going to do before we put them in office. Remember, they were supposed to oppose the establishment and go get us Medicare for all. Yep. It was their number one issue. And I was cool with that as long as our other issues came into play. But our issues went by the wayside, right? Our other issues. But even still, this was your issue. You got it, neo-progressives? You're going to really hold it against Jimmy Dore? He's putting your plan into play. You have another video from Jackson?
Yeah, so he just did a super chat on Jimmy Dore's show, and let's hear what Steph said. And
hi, Jimmy. My community is organizing a sit-in protest outside AOC's office for January 3rd and January 4th to force the vote. Please help us boost the pinned tweet on Jackson Hinkle Twitter. Keep tweeting at us. Tweet at me, and I'll be able to support that too. The Dive with Jackson Hinkle.
I guess go tag Steph and Jimmy in my tweet. Fuck yeah, dude. We got it read. And I hope you can be there to join me, especially if you're in the greater DC area. We need as many people there as possible. Understand not everyone can come out. Some people have pre-existing conditions. But if you can, stand up for the person who can't. Protest for the person who can't. Come out and make a ruckus. Cause a ruckus. Cause a good scene, some good trouble for people who can't. And demand that we have a vote on Medicare for all on the House floor, and that AOC and her fellow progressives, or so-called progressives, leverage their power to do everything within their capability to demand a Medicare for all vote on the House floor, right?
So this is taking it to the next level where we're talking about, this is what I've been waiting for, occupying spaces. Now, should we do this with other issues? Absolutely. Nothing is stopping you, by the way, from pushing for a sit-in for a $2,000 UBI, for saying scrap that $1,200, even if we get it, which we will likely not get it. We could do all of these things, but if we can't do something as basic as a simple push, withhold a vote from Pelosi, a vote that should never go to her in the first place, right? If we can't even do something as simple as that, how are we even going to do a general strike? General strike was trending on Twitter because people are contemplating it and then talking about it, because $600 is an insult. It's an abomination. And it's unacceptable. And so people are like, maybe it's time for a general strike. Well, how the hell are we going to talk about a general strike if withholding a vote for Pelosi is something so monumental that we have to argue about it for a fucking week because people can't get on board with that? So I like this idea by Jackson. I definitely want to be there. I know it's also the Assange hearing. These are two of my of most important issues. Obviously, election integrity is the other one. And I feel like it's important for us to show up there. We want to go. We want to cover this. And I would love to see AOC's face when she's confronted by people who elected her. I mean, all of these people I know, Jackson and
better
all
believe
these
she
people
would be there.
were her supporters. They all supported her. We all supported her. So
yeah, well, I like the fact that Jackson's talking about if you want to fight for somebody who can't be there, who, someone who's homeless, someone who's sick. That's what it is to be a leftist right there. When you stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, that's the whole difference. I believe the divide between left and right, more than anything, it's individual responsibility versus people. I call myself a leftist libertarian because I'm willing to go fight for those people who can't fight for themselves. And they're part of the people and humans in our society. I don't want to cast blame on them and why they are on the streets and why they are homeless. But we have systemic issues when it comes to people going bankrupt for lack of health care and lack of mental care. And we need to fix it. We need to come up with some solutions. So I like the fact that Jackson's doing this and we have those other people there. So this is January 3rd and 4th. Mark it down your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. It's an important time to be in DC. So I think
absolutely.